Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik with Flying and Eating. Today, let's go somewhere and do something, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Hey guys, it's Adam here. In the last few episodes of Flying and Eating, I went out to Tokyo, Japan. I've eaten a whole bunch of things, I've explored a whole bunch of areas, as recently as Yokosuka, Japan, which is a cool little naval fusion area between the United States and Japan. Today, though, the adventure continues.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Today's plan, we're going to eat something, I'll show you in a second, and then I'm going to go out and go do some shopping again, see what kind of stuff I can find. I always have fun doing that, and we'll see what else happens, you know, we'll just kind of go with the day. This is like a little bento box I got at a grocery store. This is with tax, because you do have to pay tax on small stuff like this, 429 yen or so, which would be, used to be about $4, now it's more like $2.30-ish. For a pork cutlet, white rice, got some corn, some pasta in there. Now I could have had them heat this up, but there's no point. I'll just do that back at the hotel.
Man, I didn't know they still made this. This Pepsi Refresh Shot. This is like super concentrated, super sweet version of Pepsi. It's really good, but it's got to be absolutely terrible for you. But there it is. I want to believe that says milk the rich. And look, Chupa Chups has a drink. So we have now arrived in a little area near Yamato, very near to Sakuragaoka, which is a good Shenmue reference for anybody who actually did play those games. But we're going to a Hard Off, which is just down that street. I remember finding incredible things over there, and hopefully I can repeat some of that luck. Maybe we'll come back here though and get another coffee. But for now, just head over this way. Nice little area. I thought I'd give you guys some updates on train stuff. So, as a reminder, that's the big glitch in the system, is I personally use credit cards for everything, right? But you can't really link an American credit card to the train system here. You can get one of those little Suica, Passmo, or Icoca cards, but you have to reload those with cash. If you are Japanese or have a Japanese credit card, there are alternatives, but as Gaijin myself, I am unable to do that. So I basically just have to kind of pay attention to it and reload it when possible, which gets kind of annoying. But that's the bug in the system. But it'll get there. Japan's improved a lot on the whole like digital currency thing, credit cards especially. Like I know I was kind of talking about this before, but like this is not a joke. Like Japan only started using credit cards like a few years ago. Credit cards are very much an American idea. And like I remember coming here in 2017, on multiple places we would go to, I would try to buy something with a credit card, and they were like, okay, this is the first time I've ever used a credit card, so you're gonna have to give me a few minutes to figure this out. And the only reason that even happened is because they were preparing for the 2020 Olympics, so the government was kind of forcing it on everybody. But yeah, one thing I've noticed this time around is the tax-free thing. Like I said, it's different, it's easier now, but it seems like less and less stores advertise that they do it, which is a little strange. But I'm still finding that a lot of them, the employees, like when they finally get the tax-free situation, they're all like kind of stunned, and they have to like go find the one guy who knows how it works. Okay, they really changed this one. This is now something called Pallet, which is like a grocery store, and I guess there's a Hard Off in there somewhere. Oof, I'm a little worried about that. Check it out. I found the very rare Sega PlayStation. I don't know why anybody would put that sticker on there, but it's cool, I guess. This is kind of cool. It's the Famicom network system in the box still. So it's like a modem and stuff you would put onto the console in Japan. It's not that expensive either. I don't really want it, but it's neat to see.
So I just came out of there, out of Hard Off. Hard Off changed a bit. It's smaller inside, but still pretty good. I got some cool things. I got one thing in particular that was like stupid. Like I shouldn't have bought it, but it was never going to be cheaper than that, ever. And it was in beautiful condition. Came with a bunch of great additionals, so let's leave it at that. I didn't have to pay tax on it, which was interesting. As I mentioned, the tax-free thing here. One thing I've noticed about Japan on this trip since the last couple of years ago when I was here before, they've gotten worse about telling you when something is tax-free. They used to proudly brand it on stuff. But at the same time, even though they're worse at telling you, more places are doing it. So I found that if I just kind of typed it out in Japanese and like held it up to them, a guy would usually read it out, and then they'll like talk to each other for a second, and then usually what they'll do is turn around and type up into Google Translate, and Google just explain to me in English that if I spend over 5,000 yen, then yes, I don't have to pay tax on it. But they're never really sure, and every time it's like the guy who's trying to do the thing is like, it's like the first time he's ever done it, which to be fair is probably accurate since they just opened at the time I'm here, but it's very interesting. And man, so some incredible savings on that. But yeah, it's just the guy selling stuff in particular was very cool. Like very understanding. Like we were able, even though he couldn't speak a word of English, and my Japanese is terrible, we were still able to like get through this. We had a few laughs. It was even formal enough to the point where we're like, all right, bro, like you did a fist bump, or like jamata, which is like, see you later.
So Japan is famous for having a lot of strange vending machines. This one caught my attention because clearly it's written in English because stupid Gaijin like myself have made this mistake many times. We're not eating here, but this is a place called Yoshinoya. We actually have these in the US, though it's uncommon. The American version of this is terrible. The Japanese version is like good, but still fast food. But the American version is inedible.
So I thought I'd tell you guys a story as I continue to walk along here. Another one about Gaijin, I guess, benefits. You could argue it was almost racism against me, but honestly, I didn't care because it was totally to my advantage. So a few years ago, I was in Japan for 3 weeks, which is a surprisingly long time for a guy by himself. And I kind of ran out, to be totally honest, I kind of ran out of stuff to do. And so towards the end of the trip, I decided to go to Tokyo Disney. First of all, Tokyo Disney, at least then, I don't know about now, is a lot cheaper than the American ones. I mean, like 1/4 the price. And you have the conventional California park, but there's also the Disney Sea, which is their own thing. And I didn't go to that one, I went to the conventional California one, which was nice. But I get in the park, I start on the whole thing, looking for a ride, whatever. I do Big Thunder Mountain. The line's like 2 hours long. After that's over, I walk over to another ride. I think it was Splash Mountain. And I just go ahead and get in line, and then this woman who works there doesn't really speak English, but she walks over to me, and I want to keep in mind, I think this was a key, at the time I was just walking around with big headphones, kind of like these. The Japanese don't really do that. There's a lot of earbuds and stuff like that, but the big Bose ones or anything like that, you don't see that very often. And I think that was part of it, because I get in line, and the woman comes over, and she just says, in very broken English, she's like, single rider Gaijin? Now, for those who've never been to a Disney park, they have single rider lines that kind of, you can just jump into so you can do things a little faster. The Japanese version of it was a tad different. She handed me this card that was written in multiple languages, including English, that essentially explained your special needs. There's something wrong with you. So you were allowed to skip all the lines. I mean, she literally thought I was like disabled. So, because I was white, more or less. And I mean, technically that's supposed to be offensive, but it wasn't at all, because you know who was getting to skip all the lines at Disneyland? This guy. The karma kind of bit me in the ass on that one though, because so I did Splash Mountain. It was the first thing I did. And Splash Mountain, for those who've ever been on it, it's like you go on this little canoe thing, like all around this area, and then there's this big fall at the end. Now in the US version, there's like 4 seats, one, you know, like one behind each other, 4 in a row. The Japanese cut it in such a way that it can fit 2 people per section, so it's slightly bigger, but not big enough for my American. So essentially you'd have 2 thin people next to each other. Japanese, man. So they have to have everything very rigid and very set up. And so there's actually, like, if you can imagine, like a little canoe type of seat, they actually have like little plastic molding to kind of tell you like what the divider is between the 2 people and the divider between your own legs. But again, it's designed for much smaller, thinner people. So I sat down on it, and I sat down on my my manhoods, as it were. And that hurt. And then the bar comes down and squeezed. Not a good time. So I'm in serious agony the entire time, and there's this nice Japanese lady to the left of me who sees what's going on. She's like, "Oh no," and she's like patting my hand, like saying like, "It okay," because it was like she knew what was going on, and it was like, "Oh, this sucks." And I'm sitting there the whole time panicking because like I know what happens. We go down at the end. There's no way this doesn't destroy me. So like right before it happened, she kind of grabbed my hand. She's like, "Okay, it's okay." And then I just did everything I could to apply pressure upwards to get any, like even a millimeter of space. Man, that was a painful experience. So naturally, I went ahead and did it again. So something I wanted to talk about as I'm walking around here, just an observation you might notice if you're ever in Japan, is you're going to see a lot of people working in locations where it's a little strange to see someone working. Actually, check that out. That was McDonald's delivery. That's a real thing here. McDelivery. But yeah, you're gonna see a lot of old guys in particular that work at train stations, and they're usually doing the function of like what a sign could do. You'll also see a lot of people who are hired specifically, just like usually old guys again, who are just kind of hired for small menial tasks, including things that are, I guess, useful, like cleaning stuff. But like they'll be like at a subway station and there'll be an old guy like cleaning the railings. It's interesting, and I was told the reason that's so common is like, why would you hire a guy to do this instead of like just put up a sign? And it's to help, you know, basically keep the elderly, you know, supporting the economy, have them doing something. It also helps to prevent homelessness. Homelessness in Japan is pretty low, because even if you're not making a ton of money doing that, it's enough to get by. It's enough to have your self-esteem boost, make you try harder, all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. I don't know how well that policy would go back home.
Stopped for a little sustenance. I had one of those little rice things, you know, it was good. But this, I'm just curious, man. I'm just curious.
It's good. It's like cantaloupe bread. Got a cream filling, almost like a donut. Cantaloupe donut, for a better way of putting it. It's good. So I'm now in an area called Fujisawa. You can see a Mr. Donut there, which is kind of like a Japanese interpretation of Dunkin' Donuts. And appropriately enough, there's actually a Baskin Robbins next to it, which is actually owned by Dunkin' Donuts. That was totally unintentional. But anyway, and this whole area smells like sugar, so that might make some sense. But once again, we are here just to do a little shopping. We're going to go to another book off and see what I can find. Oh yes, and they have Subway here. I once had the shrimp avocado Subway sandwich. Was great. One thing I did a long time ago was when I got my first Droid. No, sorry, my first Pixel, my Pixel 1. I told it to keep track of everywhere I went. And I've been to a lot of places. So anytime I can go into a store, if I look it up on Google Maps, it can tell me like, oh yeah, you were here 5 years ago. But no, I've never been to this town. Oh, there we go. Once again, McDonald's and McDelivery. I can give you guys a close-up look at the little cart, the little bikes they got. So presumably you just order stuff through the app, and then it comes your way via McDelivery. Here we go. Here's another one. Hopefully we actually find something. The last one I found some stuff, but nothing super crazy. Well, unfortunately, that was a bit of a bust, but and by a bit, I mean completely, but that's okay. At least it'll allow us a chance to come check out the town of Fujisawa, because I have never been here before, may never be able to ever come back. Seems very nice, very clean, a lot of cool stuff, just none of them video games that I'm looking for. So I wanted to mention something, because a lot of people I'm sure are going to be commenting like, well, if you have this problem with the trains and you need to buy, you know, a pass or whatever, why didn't you get the JR pass? I've heard a lot about that, JR pass. Let me tell you a little bit about the JR pass. So I got that once. The thing is, it's very expensive. It's like $350 or something. It's good for like 2 weeks. You can get a slightly cheaper one for like $250, and it's good for 1 week. So the thing with that is, though, it's only tourists such as myself would actually be eligible for it. Like locals can't use it. But the thing is, it only works on JR lines. Now, while all the train cards match and you can use them from line to line to line to line, you can use the cards for like Passmo, Suica, Ikoka, you can use them on all the different lines. It doesn't really matter. The JR Pass is not the same. The JR Pass only works on JR specific ones, which means you still end up paying for a lot of trains anyway. So why even do it? There's only one reason. and that's if you're going to take the Shinkansen, you know, the bullet train. If you're going to take that, say like Tokyo to Osaka and back, then it's kind of worth it because the Shinkansen costs like $150 each way. So if you get like the 1 week pass and you ride it back and forth, it's paid for itself. Then you just have the bonus of riding all the other JR lines for free. But if you don't do that, it's not worth it. So there we're going to Super Book Off Bazaar. That's like, I mean, the name is correct. It's Bazaar, except spelled differently. It's like a bazaar, like a Middle Eastern bazaar. Also, Hama Sushi, by the way, is another really good sushi chain like Kura Sushi. To them, it's like fast food, but frankly, if you're from the West, it's going to be, whoa, hey, this is great.
So these are different because they have like clothes and shoes, and it's more like a bazaar as in like a market type of thing. So they've got video games and stuff like that, but nothing I needed, but still pretty cool. If you're ever out here and just looking for used Japanese stuff, not bad.
We're going back to Yokosuka because something magical always seems to happen on that street just because of the Shenmue vibes. Plus, honestly, it's something I can do without tempting myself to buy anything, which is always smart because I've spent way too much money. I've got my bag just sitting there, and you'll notice I'm walking away from the bag. Part of the reason for that is, well, you shouldn't really do that. I'm going to be completely honest about something. Japan has pretty strict rules on theft. So the crime rate is really low here as far as like nobody ever steals your cash, nobody ever steals your bags, nobody touches your stuff. It's not so much they even want it, it's more like they don't care. It has nothing to do with them, they're just going to leave it alone. But Japan has pretty strict rules about that kind of thing. If you are caught stealing stuff, it can destroy your life. Like you're blackballed, you can never have a job, you can't live in certain communities. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can't do. It's not worth the risk. So nobody touches your stuff, so I always feel confident about that.
So when you walk out of the Yokosuka station, the smaller one, not the big Yokosuka Chuo station that's over there, you're presented basically with the harbor itself. You'll see obviously all these buses, like in Shenmue in my game, this is of course probably the bus line that the main character would have taken. But in reality, of course, it's just a bus for basic transit. But let me go ahead and show you guys a little bit of the harbor. Which of course in the video game is a big deal, but I'll try to not refer to the video game all that much because I know not everybody really cares about that. But just as a general tourist site, like I keep saying, what's cool about this place is how it's not only historical, but it's practical, and it's also, you know, just interesting to actually check out. A lot of the time there can be joint military exercises and Navy exercises. Like there's a US ship out there. A lot of the times like, there is a ship back there. Some of these are Japanese. One time I was here and parked right there was the USS Ronald Reagan was here. I think the Gerald Ford was, if you go beyond that like tree line, that's actually where the US base is. And I could be mistaken, but I think the Gerald Ford was there at the time, but again, I could be wrong. But anyway, this is where a lot of stuff happens. Earlier in this series, when I was here, and I showed you guys footage of this area, it was kind of chaos and I couldn't come down to this spot. And the reason for that was there was a big like joint naval exercise between the United States, Japan, Canada, South Korea, Thailand, and a few other countries. The Philippines, I think, were all here in just kind of a joint, you know, celebration, if you will, of military alliance or strength. I don't really know how, I don't know the specifics, but all these countries were here. This is kind of cool. This is actually a World War II Japanese cannon. So my buddy told me the history of this. I don't totally remember all the details, but basically this actually served on a real battleship. And then after the war, when the US was basically decommissioning all the Japanese military stuff, they basically said, do you want this thing? We could put it up as like a, you know, a display piece. Part of the reason the United States and Japan get along so well is contrary to what you've heard sometimes or want to believe. The United States was not a conqueror. It basically was helping them to do pacification, rewrite their constitution, clean up their government, etc. And they showed incredible respect to the Japanese for their national identity, etc. And they said, like, hey man, we don't have to be enemies. Like, we want to get together, we want to get along, we want Japan to be a powerful friend and ally. And so symbols like gestures like this was one of the way to do that. Like, yeah, take your cannon. It's okay that you served in World War II. We're not going to make you hide the fact that you did that. Just, you know, your soldiers fought bravely and proudly, etc., for their
their nation, even though it meant the two of us had to fight, we can still honor those people. They don't have to be social pariahs, etc. You know, basically you show respect for your opponent, if that makes any sense. And birthed out of that respect between MacArthur and Emperor Hirohito became the modern foundation of the American-Japanese alliance. The idea that those two countries just love each other so much and have such mutual respect and cooperation really is one of the greatest political achievements of the 20th century. To the point where here we are in Yokosuka, an area that basically is the melting pot fusion of the United States and Japan together. And as I've said in the past, contrary to what some people out there want to believe, the United States is not here against the will of the Japanese government. That is sovereign American soil over there. But the Japanese technically have the power to kick us out if they want to. They never have. In fact, as I've said before, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, something like that, I think it was under the Obama administration, the United States was getting prepared to withdraw bases from Japan. We just didn't really see it as necessary anymore. And the Japanese said, no, please stay. We'll actually pay you to stay. So they started covering the expenses of us here because it's cheaper than building your own military defense structure. And there's no better security system than the United States. So for them, it was kind of a win-win for everybody. And to the following president's credits, Trump got them to increase the amount of money they were paying, and Biden did the same. So the Japanese pay us pretty substantially to stay here. In fact, in 2000, I think it was 2018, the Japanese actually bought an island. I forget where. This is like a real story. You can look this up. They bought an island in the South Pacific for the sole purpose of, quote-unquote, giving it to the United States. And putting American military bases on it. So it's technically Japanese soil, completely administered, controlled, and operated by the Americans. Now you can argue whether or not the political reasons behind that are good or bad. I'm just saying these are things that happen. The point is, Japan and the United States get along really well, even if we have a few random misunderstandings. And that's something, I know I hit on this in an earlier part of the video, but I think that's something that people really need to understand. Americans and Canadians in particular tend to think the Europeans are our mutual, social brothers. And they are, but we disagree a lot more on the direction of the world. The Japanese and the Americans are like this. I mean, just because we don't speak the same language, there's a few odd cultural differences here and there, but socially, they're very similar to us in their basic objectives. If they spoke English natively, this is the country everybody would think of as our like primary ally, as opposed to say the UK. I mean, in order of, America's security concerns outside of itself, its number one ally is the United Kingdom. Number 2 is Australia. Number 3 is Japan. And it's because of mutual, respect, cooperation, and political philosophical agreement on things. Even though you might expect it to be someone like France or Germany, it's not. And I just find that interesting. I'm not taking a side on that. I'm not making a stake in it. It's just what it is. And I think that that's fascinating. So, if you've never been out to Japan, I really do recommend it for a series of, experiences. But it is interesting. Aside from South Korea, Japan is really the quote-unquote Western Oasis of Asia. You can kind of include Australia in that, but really not, because it's kind of its own thing. But after that, you start getting into cultures that are truly, truly their own and truly, truly different. If you've ever been to, say, Tijuana, or, Vancouver, something that's just like a hop skip over the border from the United States, then this will feel very familiar, because everything on this side is obviously Japan and is Japanese, but it's basically appealing to all the stereotypes of what they expect the other side to want. And so as soon as they cross, they have all those things, but they also make it as, let's say, American quote-unquote compatible as possible. So it would be very similar to that. Not so much Vancouver, but you know what I mean, right over the border, if you hop into Canada, let's say Niagara Falls. They just have everything hyperactive, ready to go, get all the stereotypical Canadian stuff, or you can hop into Mexico on a Tijuana, all the stereotypical Mexican stuff. It's kind of like that. They just take all the stereotypical Japanese stuff and they just throw it in there. Of course, that's stereotypical American stuff, ironically, the U.S. Embassy. I'm inside Honeybee Burger. I'm going with the Honeybee Burger Combo. Sans pickles, of course. The devil's cucumbers must not ruin my food. It just dawned on me, I completely forgot to tell you guys that about Honeybee Burger. Like, it was good. I've had better burgers, even in Japan, specifically at Tsunami Burger, but it was the second best burger I've ever had in Japan. And that makes sense, you know, the whole area is American and all that. We're better at burgers, sorry, just are. But typically a place that does a good burger versus just kind of an okay burger is they'll ask you how you want it prepared. Tsunami Burger, if I recall correctly, asks you like medium rare, what do you want? Whereas Honeybee Burger, while good, just makes it one way. And that's usually a sign of like, yeah. But it was still good, I enjoyed it. Having honey on it was actually pretty nice. No cheese though, which really threw off the whole process. I wasn't expecting that at all. I decided to make a very special stop, something that's got to be done. Obviously not that. Tully's Coffee, yes, we're not going to McDonald's. What's wrong with you? I decided to go ahead and get one of these like Harry Potter drinks. I got the Harry Potter mince pie latte. They have one that's a milk tea. Love milk tea over here. But I got the Harry Potter latte. It was pretty good, man. It's basically got like various little fruits like cranberries and stuff, that little cookie thing, caramel sauce, and just it's kind of a chocolatey whatever thing. It was nice. It was cool too. I was sitting there and then you know, the woman working there just ran over and gave me a Slytherin sticker. Apparently that was the house I was chosen for. I am Slytherin. Which is funny because my personality test, yeah, I took one of those stupid Harry Potter personality tests. The Sorting Hat put me in Slytherin as well, so it's consistent. Thought I'd show you guys some random Japanese but American style things. We got Hershey's baked chocolate donuts and the Choco donut with classical Hershey's. So that's all chocolate and that one's just chocolate interior. Still not very good because it's Hershey's, but hey, it's cool. So I'm now back at the hotel and I decided to pick up a few treats, as it were, for the evening. One, I got the essentials. I've been really enjoying these. I had the peach one. I had the whatever the other one was, the orange one. This is the pineapple one. There's also a mango one, and again, they consist of basically 4 different fruits together. So I'm looking forward to that. They've been very good so far. I also saw this. It kind of got my attention, a mango lassi, which is an Indian thing. I've never seen one just like packaged up like this before, but why not? This is a hot chocolate. This one's actually warm because I bought it out of one of those heated things. Also, I got this. This is like a pumpkin pudding thing. I'm gonna get this because it's, you know, I'm kind of missed Halloween a little bit, and we're in November now at the time I'm recording this, although it may be December by the time you see this. But yeah, I wanted some pumpkin. And to all the Canadians out there, I thought I'd give you guys a shout out. We have maple cream sand cake. Yep, that's what it says. So we'll see how this goes. So the hot chocolate was surprisingly disappointing. It was very watery. This tastes like Canada. This straight up tastes like maple syrup in the form of like bread. I don't know how else to put it. It's pretty good. It could be better. I don't think I would do it again, but I'm not disappointed, but I'm also not like, oh man, I need this again in my life. It's just good. The pumpkin cream thing is very creamy. It tastes more like squash than pumpkin, which it might technically be. I don't really know. It's not bad. It's good. It's just not... If you're expecting this to taste like pumpkin pie filling, that's not what it tastes like. But it's still good. So this is pretty good. It's you know, it's basically, it is a banana lassi, just it's like it says. But if you never had one, it's kind of like a yogurt-based drink. In general, this is like, I've never seen them just over the counter like this. I mean, they obviously exist, but yeah, this is good. It's, yeah, if you like bananas and you like yogurt, but you want it as a drink, you could do worse. So I just dived into this, the pineapple blend one. It's pretty good. It's very strong on pineapple, but it also has apple, grape, and kiwi. But the thing I'm definitely noticing the most is pineapple. I really like this Essentials line that Tropicana does out here. Very clearly better than the stuff we're doing back home, unfortunately. But hey, I'm enjoying it while I've got access to it. If you're out here, yeah, and you like fruit drink stuff, definitely get these Essential things. They're really good.
All right, and that'll do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching. Please stay tuned to the next one, in which I'm going to give you guys a whole lot more information on the train system, a bunch of Japanese language suggestions, things that are useful for Gaijin tourists, and of course, we're going to have some sushi because it's Japan. You got to do that, and I miss it. So thank you very much for watching. As always, please do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on all the social media stuff in the description, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, etc. Thank you so much for the support, and I'll see you all later.